like I was made for it. I feel like I was made for it.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back for another special edition of the UnconQuerable because we believe. Can we please give it a round of applause for our lovely guest today? The first couple to be here on the show and to sit on my couch. Okay, y'all on my couch.
Calhoun's in the house.
There's a couple.
Yeah.
It feels good.
Yeah.
This couch doing a lot.
It's doing a lot. So,
a whole lot.
Fun fact: Raymond Santana sat in this chair. In this couch right here.
Okay.
One in Central Park 5. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So anybody that sits on this couch is legendary.
That's what I'm talking about.
You see what I'm saying?
What's up?
So, and today is actually episode 6.
Yeah.
Growth through personal barriers. Man, we're almost close to the end of the first season. Man, this is crazy to me that we're close to the end of the first season, and I'm the second to last episode, closing it out with you two, and folks that I admire and I love. So, before we get into the actual episode, can y'all introduce yourselves?
Oh my goodness.
Please. To the good people, the Calhouns.
Beauty first.
Hi everyone, I am Amber Calhoun. I am a creative, multi-passionate person. I'm also a licensed social worker. So yeah, I do a lot of different things, but that's me in a nutshell.
Go ahead, make them plugs. Go ahead, tell me everything.
I also have a blog by the name of Curly Corner, which is a natural hair and lifestyle blog.
That's right.
So yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
Well, we can find the blog. Come on, girls.
Curlycorner.com.
Curlycorner.com. You gonna put these plugs on the show.
Come on,
Somebody gonna see it.
Been in there working so hard on this.
Thank you.
Oh,
For years.
man.
Look.
For years.
Come on now, she been out here putting in work. Like when I had my braids, my hair was delicious because
Not delicious.
delicious.
Come on,
It was
delicious hair.
It was like, yo, I like your braids. I was like, I know. Amber told me the product.
Right. I went to the specialist.
I went to the specialist, dog.
Thank you.
Oh,
Got you right.
And her lovely husband.
I'm just her tag along. You know what I'm saying?
My superhero.
I'm just her tag along.
And-
Her arm candy. No, I'm Keith Calhoun.
You do look good.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
I see what you do. She want me to feed her when we done.
Yeah.
She's working on dinner right now. No, Keith Calhoun. I'm currently an online retail and arbitrage and reseller is what I kind of do by trade as far as how I get my money. So I do a lot of reselling and whatnot and things of that nature. I run 3 online stores through Amazon, eBay, then your other regulars, your Macaris, your Poshmarks, all those good things like that. I also am a director of the ACS, the Antioch Christian Services, our Academic Achievement Center. So I run all of the academic stuff over there, all of the tutoring, all of the academic help, the ACT, SAT prep, all those good things. I do that also as my way of giving back and staying plugged in with everything academic and stuff like that. It's just, I'm a teacher by nature. So if you ask me what I really am, in my heart of hearts, I'm a teacher.
That's why. Please give a round of applause for y'all, man. It's a great lesson. We got lessons here, and so I got y'all for this episode because I know personally what you both have done for my life and what you both do for many other people. Between loving your hair, loving your inner beauty, who you are as a woman, as a man, and what you both do for the youth. And I feel like you guys are hidden gems within our community. You know, I truly feel that way. And I've seen what y'all have done, and I've met you both because of my older cousin Monty. And I just grew to love all y'all, the whole family, the whole crew.
The package.
Yeah.
The package, right? And I've seen you guys help people through so many personal barriers and growth, what that looks like. And to understand where that comes from and why this segment's important, for those who tune in, and I say this every episode, but for those who tune in for the first time to the UnconQuerable because we believe, this really speared off me creating what my dissertation is going to be. Because I just finished my first year in my PhD program.
Come on.
Come on.
Doctor.
PhD.
Man, listen.
Doctor, coming.
Dr. Tori is loading.
Yes.
Loading. It's a long
That's all right.
but it's coming.
It's loaded.
It's under construction.
It's under construction. And so I did that because I was like, okay, I do mentorship. I've been doing it for years, as many people know.
Right.
But I got into higher education. I started seeing a lot of issues of why like certain disparities is going on between ethnicities, especially Black men, Black women, and I wanted to address it on top of the mentorship and education. So my dissertation is called The UnconQuerable: What Factors of Informal and Formal Mentorship Are Effective Towards Degree Completion for Black Men in Higher Education in Nevada. So that the UnconQuerable comes from Invictus, as Keith, you know, for us who joined those fraternities. Invictus, the first stanza talks about, out of the night that covers me, black is the pit from pole to pole. I think whatever God's might be from my unconquerable soul. And unconquerable, I made my own definition, means one who takes on personal, structural, economical, and systematic barriers to become successful in their own merit. No matter what comes their way, they've still been able to beat the odds. And I've seen you and many other people of different ethnicities and colors who's been able to be unconquerable. It's really a mindset, and God told us, and I'm a believer of God, folks who don't know, and Jesus.
Oh, yes.
So therefore, he's created us unconquerable. Yes, indeed. So that's where it all comes from. And this episode talks about growth. What does it look like for growth and personal barriers? But not only that, how do we address it with youth, right? And oftentimes there's this perception of, oh, leave it at the door. What goes on at home, don't bring it here. And then you expect a 7-year-old, an 8-year-old, 10-year-old, 11-year-old to have the conscious maturity to be able to leave all that at the door. And then you wonder why when they're 30 to 35, don't know how to express themselves effectively.
Yeah.
So my first question that comes from this episode is, why do we as adults, teachers, staff, hold youth to a high standard to maintain their personal barriers at such a young age while attending school?
Can you give me an example of what you mean by personal barriers?
Personal barriers. So for example, we have a kid who's being, I'll say, I can say this because it trickles to that. So a personal barrier, they're being bullied at home, they're being abused, and then they come to school, they're also being bullied, and then a teacher tells them, oh, well, it's just words, it's not gonna fit. They kind of bury it.
Sticks and stones.
Sticks and stones will break my bones type of approach. But then they don't address the buildup. And then once things keep building, then next thing you know, there's a fight that breaks out. Now you have zero tolerance. Now that kid's RPC. Now that kid's suspended. That happens at school. You get punished there, then you get punished at home when you're already being punished. And then there's an expectation from the staff, well, it's on the kid, not us. Like, why is that?
In my experience in education as a social worker, so I'm the one that gets all in the feelings. I'm all Philly. I know everything that's going on at home, that I just take that on as being my job to understand what's happening with the whole side of the child.
Right.
But what I have found is educators are not taught to dig that deep. They don't know how. They don't know what that looks like. They don't know what that means, and they don't have time.
Right.
Because let's be honest, they are overflooded with too many kids to even be able to have that one-on-one time to build those relationships, to find out what's going on, and to still be able to teach. But at its core, they are not taught how to deal with that. So then it's just like you just need to push that to the side and do your work, because they're not taught.
Right.
So they're probably feeling a little inadequate because they don't understand what that even looks like. Where do I even start? I ain't even dealt with my own. One lesson I had to learn if I haven't dealt with my own stuff, now I'm trying to help this child.
Right.
I don't know what to do with that.
First off, I would say you got to know with her specifically that she gets people to open up in a weird way.
Oh, that's very true.
Like,
that's
people,
very true.
I call her First 48.
Oh, here we
She
go.
will get you to snitch on yourself in the smoothest way possible.
And
Why do you
cry.
call it snitching?
Because they do. Because they do.
Why do
They
you guys do
snitch.
these things? I don't make people
Listen.
cry.
The kids will come to you.
Are you investigating?
Listen, real talk. She will know about the fight that happens on campus.
Yeah.
10 minutes after it happened.
Yeah.
Who it happened with, why it happened, what the backstory was, where they had posted it on social media, the whole nine. The school will come to her a week later. We just found out about this fight that happened. She's already got.
I knew about that
She
fight.
has
I already talked to the kids. It's already
There's
good.
an anointing in that in making that happen. But to answer your question, Sean, from my perspective, I think it goes back to a lot of what has been done to them in every aspect, from the parent all the way to the faculty or all the adults that are in this particular situation. It's what was done to them.
That's true.
It was what that was taught to them. You move on. You get past this. Life is going to happen. You're going to have to deal with this at some point in time. You're going to have to learn how to get past all that. You can't blow up. You can't have all these emotions. And so then when she's talking about not being taught, yeah, because they weren't taught either. You know what I'm saying? You push past these things. You just get on past it. And what I do love about what is happening now, currently, is that people are being allowed to actually express what is going on with them. They're being allowed to be emotional, full human beings.
Right.
And so now that you have these kids that are being full human beings, now we're starting to see the tethering and the mess up and the disconnect with the generation prior to them. You look at something almost like hip hop.
Yeah.
And you listen to the music, that's going on right now in hip hop. A lot of guys I talk to, they're like, these thugs are emotional. These are some very emotional thugs.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because they're bringing up being depressed and how they didn't have anybody around and how it felt to not have a father. And, their mama is the only person that they had in their life, and so they're bringing up all these things. And as an educator, when we go back to the classroom, you're only able to unpack so much, and you're still charged with the original assignment of educating. I'm here to educate you. What we have done in this country, I believe, is we've put teachers in the place of being parents.
Oh, for sure.
You are going to now parent my child. You're going to parent my child for 7 days. And so a lot of times when you have the teacher and the parent going at each other, the teacher feels like, I can tell you about your kid. Why? I'm with your kid more than you are.
I mean, we found that out during the pandemic.
Yep.
I'm with your kid more
We found that out during the pandemic,
Listen, we
okay?
definitely did, because I definitely felt the way that I was still paying private school for them to help my kid press the button. I was like, I need to get paid, because for all my public
some checks.
Yeah, like, hey, listen, because something ain't adding up. I'm still paying you to me press a button for my kid.
Yeah.
Something ain't right. But it definitely showed a wavelength of how education, no matter private or not, you're still on the same level playing. Don't think you just above just because you pay. And it definitely taught us that.
Yeah,
for sure.
And so now you have these teachers that are in a non-disclosed way, or in a way that isn't really told to them. You're going to parent kids.
Yeah.
You're not here just to educate kids. You're going to parent kids. That's what the job is. But they don't tell them that when you're going through your schooling and whatever the case may be,
right.
or any of the training. So now you're getting new teachers that are getting thrown into this situation. Culture matters, where they're coming from, where the kids are coming from, and they don't know how to really necessarily handle that. And so what we're trying to make them do is we're trying to make the kids do what is easiest for society. And you do it in a small micro way. What's easiest for my class? You're going to behave what's easiest for my class. And I don't have the ability to go in deep with you because that is going to disrupt the class. And so when you are a disruption to my class, what do? We get them out of here. Right. Same thing we do with society. You're a disruption to society. What do? We lock them up. We get them out of here.
Right.
And so it's all starting from, indoctrination from school all the way up. And we're not even aware of it until stuff like this now, where we're starting to say, well, why do we hold these kids to these high standards of these certain things when they're a 10th grader? And we're expecting them not to trip out, not keep their grades up, work a job, you know what I'm saying? Babysit, this, that, and the third, be mature in a relationship, you know what I mean? And, be a good student.
Be a good student too.
And all these different things, you know what I mean? And we're expecting them to come in already with those tools already preset.
Right.
And so why do we hold them up to that standard? In my opinion, it's what we've always done.
Right.
We don't know a different way of doing it. Because if we do it a different way, now we're talking about the breakdown of our educational system and how we teach.
Tear it down.
Lord.
Now that's what we're talking about.
Tear it down.
And because the reality is now, right, effective May 1st or June 1st, I forgot which day, we go back to 100% capacity, right? And then that means it's going to be a spiral effect of what CCSD does, what NSHE does, what we're going to be in person, right? I've been someone I've been back in person for a while. And it's been I've been like Will Smith, I Am Legend in here, where it's just me by myself in the building, right?
Yeah.
Inside the Thomas Student Union. and because of the vaccine, that was the first interaction I'm getting. I'm like, oh yeah, oh my God. But it's like, so the reality is we're gonna go right back to it, and these students are gonna be forced to face with micro and macro aggressions again in the classroom, because during COVID, students were removed from that. And this actually segues to my next question from y'all. Because now we're going to be forced to be put back in these situations, and now this kind of just blew up a lot, especially from you being a social worker. I know you've seen that it's been tough to get interaction with kids, right? So
yeah, I'm chasing kids down.
Damn right, you're chasing kids. You and my boy Darius, he's a social worker too. Been chasing kids down, calling, making home visits. It's been like crazy. So how do we now coming back to what I guess what a normal is, even though it's going to be a different normal? How do we teach our youth how to handle/cope stress, handle/cope with their stress and experience through personal barriers while being in school? Like how are we going to be able to do that now coming post COVID? Because we don't even know what that looks like right now.
Right. I think before, because when we're talking about stress, we're getting into their personal life.
Yes.
So before all of that, I need to build a relationship with you. I need to sit down. I need to find out who you are. What do you like? Just talk with you so you can see a little bit about me and understand that I'm being genuine and I really am trying to help you,
right.
But I also care about you. So I think at the bare minimum, in an ideal situation, I'm building a relationship with you. Now, that is not, we don't always have time. There's a lot of times students get thrown in my room or youth get passed off to me, and it might be a stressful situation. It might be a crisis, and I don't have time to build that relationship, and I just have to get in there. But I think you need to talk to them and see what they're feeling, because as adults, we have a lot of assumptions about what we think should happen. And a lot of times they'll tell you what they need if you just talk to them. So first, we need to stop talking so much as adults, and we need to listen. I think that's relationship building, and stop talking so much and listen. Because they know what they want.
What bothers me is how people, adults, like to say to these youth, they don't know what they're talking about. No, they do. They do. They just don't conform and express it how you want them to.
Yeah.
And that's a problem.
And it speaks to, the difference in how things are raised. Me and her were talking about this before we came here last night. And one of the things that people don't really realize is that our parents said they wanted us to have a better life, right? And so they did things to put us in a better position.
Right.
They don't realize that comes with side effects.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So, and we attribute those side effects negatively in the children, in the youth that we see today. We call them lazy. We say that they're privileged. We say all these different things. That's their reality. That's a side effect of me, if you giving me a better life, to where that isn't necessarily my struggle, but you want to put your struggle on me, and I've never experienced that. And matter of fact, you did everything you could to make sure I did.
How you gonna punish a kid for being from the
How you gonna punish me for doing that?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And then their exposure. Yeah. These kids see things that we've never saw before.
Yeah.
If you or I would have graduated high school in our summer of high school after graduation, and we went to New York or Miami or something like that for a week, that would have been the biggest thing that we've ever seen, right? These kids are looking through technology at people going to Dubai and people going to the south of France. It's a real thing. They know what's there. They know what food they eat. They know the culture that goes on there. They're aware of all these things. And you want them to be happy that you took them to California? You know what I'm saying? And they're seeing people real life. Like LVA is a very unique school. Yeah. LVA has kids there that actually background dance for Chris Brown and Beyonce and all this. These kids are real money makers. These kids are making real moves, seeing real things. And I'm in class with him. And you want me to, you know what I'm saying, feel like I'm appreciative of the lifestyle that you're telling me I'm supposed to be appreciative to. So I think to answer your question, we have to figure out which way do we want to really address this. Do we want to get back to normal? Or do we really want to fix it and be successful as far as helping them deal with their stresses and all those different things? If we want to get back to normal, then, we're talking about doing, giving it time, bringing back sports, bringing back, extracurriculars, highlighting maybe this upcoming year with a little bit of extra stuff, you know what I'm saying, to make them feel a little bit more special, and then getting back to business as usual. if we're talking about really fixing the issues and helping them with their what's really going on with their successes and their problems and their personal barriers, well, now we have to unpack all that. And that's going to start with us really kind of as educators or how we deal with youth is doing that relationship building and tearing down that stuff of sitting, the hierarchy that I have to respect you just because of the position you hold.
Right.
And I have to treat you a certain way just because of the position you hold. Instead of looking at the child and the youth as human beings. And then once you're able to see into them and see what they're going through and what they have going on for themselves, then at that point you can take their personal barriers and say, listen, I understand you didn't have a father.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that you're, in foster care, right? Let me explain to you how this can help you. Let me explain to this how this can make you. You're called for a purpose.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So this is all part of your story. You know what I mean? And so what are you going to choose to do with your story? And where do you want to go? Now let's reverse engineer that thing and let me walk with you on how to get this all the way back to today. And we can set this all the way up for you of how you're going to get to where you want to go.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? In spite of your personal barriers, and never let those things be the reason why you don't succeed. You know what I'm saying? They're just additive to your story. So.
And I think because and this is something I think the audience should really know. You both are two phenomenal mentors and children of God who are balanced within yourselves, right? And we're talking about a population of adults /staff /educators who are not all balanced.
Yeah.
Right.
And even if we're balanced, we still aren't balanced to what you think we're perfect. No, we're not. But we're conscious enough to understand where we're at and how we can remove ourselves emotionally and without, because people don't do that. Like, I can have a terrible day and still humbly remove myself away so that I can be able to help you.
Yes.
And it's crazy. We talked about this in episode 5, where even in the concept, if you're at an upset state with God or where you're at spiritually, still being humble enough to still seek God where you're mad at God speaks to the humility of, okay, you can detach and really try to see what's going on and be aware instead of being tunnel vision. And I think a lot of educators struggle with detaching themselves and projecting their own biases onto these kids, which evolves into them not liking you as an educator, right? So what would you say to these educators? Because we're asking the question of how do we help youth, but how do you help yourself as an educator, social worker, and all these go through your own personal barriers, and then you're touching 1,500 students out of school.
You have to
and touching in a way of educating, not physically.
Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Oh.
I had to make sure that was clear because people like take things left.
You have to acknowledge your humanity.
Yeah.
You have to acknowledge that this is all part of who you are as a human. And I think that once you can understand that for yourself, that you're allowed to have a bad day, you're allowed to be upset, you're allowed to not have it today.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And still do your job. You cannot have it today. And I had a teacher that literally came in. You know what I'm saying? I won't put his name out there. But he came in hungover.
Oh.
And he was hungover from the night before. And he literally said, listen, I got a pounding headache. I need for y'all to be calm today. And we'll pick it up tomorrow.
Right.
And we understood. Yeah. And so we sat there and we were calm. We didn't really do nothing, whatever. He was acknowledging his humanity. Now, he shouldn't have came to work.
Right.
But that's an acknowledgement of your humanity. That I don't have it today. You know what I'm saying? And in this country, you're always supposed to grind it out.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to just push through the pain. And you're supposed to power through and do all this stuff. That's not balance. You know what I mean? And so then you ask the same thing of children. You ask the same thing of children. I don't care what's going on with you. You're not going to yell in my class. You're not going to disrespect me in my class. You're not going to do all this. Rather than acknowledging the humanity, you don't normally behave this way. What's going on?
What's going on?
Right.
What's up with you? You know what I'm saying? So I think it's to start for you and the kid. Acknowledge that you're human and that you ain't going to have it every single day. You're just not.
We need to deal with our junk. Period. We need to deal with our junk. We have emotions, just like you said. Like, we're all human, but we have emotions. We have things going on. You have grief. You know, you have all of this life that happens. Deal with your stuff. Like, you're trying to suppress it and push it to the side, and that stuff is going to come out, okay? It's going to overflow. It's going to come out, and that's not fair for me to put that out on you because that's possibly what's happening to you at home. So now that's happening to you at home and it's happening to you when you come to school. That's not fair.
Mm.
And so there have been moments where I've had to push through in that moment, set myself aside, like you said. But when I get home, I'm dealing with my stuff. I'm digging in deep. I'm reflecting. I reflect all the time, maybe too much, but I'm always reflecting.
I don't think there's ever wrong. Always reflecting. I don't think you can never over reflect.
Okay.
Personally, this is how I personally feel because
You don't live with it.
But because I feel like we should always be in a state of growth. Like
yes,
I can always be better. And so if I had a rough day, I'm like, dang, what happened there? Why did I lose it right here? Or what happened? What boundaries do I need to now put in place so that that doesn't happen again? So all of us that have worked with youth, you know, sometimes there's some of them that you know, push your buttons. You know, you like, you know what? You get ready to really take me out of my character right now. I'm trying. I might be ready to slide you across this floor. Like I'm visualizing me socking you in the throat right now. So if I feel myself,
this is virtual.
It's all inside.
No, it's all in here.
Upstairs.
We don't do this.
Real educators know what I'm talking about. I've never done it in real life, but in my mind I did. But it's like I shouldn't be at that point.
Yes.
So what boundaries should I have put in place in my own day, in my own life, so that I didn't even get that far? Mm-hmm. So if that means I need to tag myself out, I have a good relationship with my colleague, and I'm like, tag, you're it. I need a moment.
Right.
I got to step away.
Mm-hmm.
I need to go take my own 10 to 15 minute break to get myself together. Yeah, so I think you need to put whatever boundaries in place so you don't go off the rails, but also do the inner work. So inner work, reflection, how can I grow? Do I need to go get outside help? Do I need a therapist? I think everybody needs a therapist.
Amen. Because
it's an unbiased person to talk to help you deal with your stuff. We're not born with all of the tools to help us get through all of these different things we're trying to maneuver. So why not go to somebody that has learned and studied how to do this so you can make your life easier? I'm not Superwoman and I'm not trying to be. Help me. Right. You know what I'm saying? So inner work, reflective, and then putting those boundaries in place so that I can serve these kids. I'm here to serve them.
Right.
So I don't
say that again, please.
I don't know if people look at it like that. If I'm coming from an authoritative position, I'm coming from a position of power, and you need to respect me, the respect will come
when you give too.
Yes, as I'm serving them and I'm getting to know them and I'm building a relationship, the respect is there. To where when they come in and I'm having a rough day and I'm like, yo, they're like, Miss Amber, how you doing? I'm having a rough day. They protective. Like, yo, y'all leave Miss Amber alone. She having a rough day today. Yeah. They'll hold you down. Yeah. But we've put in that foundation and that groundwork for that to already be cool. Mm-hmm. Y'all did that with your teacher because y'all had a relationship with him.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Entirely.
So.
And people trip about that. Like they label kids.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Just right out the gate, they label kids. When I used to substitute, I remember I was at Mabel Hogarth and they labeled this kid. It was like, you got so and so's room. Oh man, you gotta watch out for little woo. And I'm like, you already putting me in a space where I'm looking at this kid like something's up with him. Yeah. You know what I mean? I sit down with him and he was bad. He was acting up. Right. And I went over to him and I said, hey man, what's up with them? You don't understand the math. You don't know how to do this. You don't know how to do that, whatever the case may be. And I kept asking him other questions to figure out what it was. Come to find out that the boy eats at school. That's all he does. That's the only time he eats is at school. He don't eat no other time. You know what I'm saying? And so I say, okay, I'm going to be here a week. Gave the dude $2. Yo, go to the lunch person. You know what I'm saying? I already gave him the money. This is Tuesday now. Mm-hmm. Get your lunch. Get your breakfast. Come back. No problems out. Everybody's like, yo, you haven't called up here about so and so. So I'm like, he was hungry. That's all it really was.
Yeah, people don't like to get to the root of the issue. And that's that's been my biggest thing with this show. That it's funny. I've had folks that work in higher ed or like, I didn't take this into consideration. That's because you don't ask why. You wait till after the fact. You feel because you're at this status that you are automatically demanding this respect.
Exactly.
And keep in mind, these students are still adults too. Yeah. And this is in higher education. Right. So and then your transition from PK through 12 to higher ed, you think it's just gonna come right out the gate? Or well, this is the expectation, but you keep feeding that macro microaggressions. Yeah. So it's just, it's a lot. And because I say that because you guys hit it on, and you guys actually started to answer my last question of this episode, which is, how do we change our approach in addressing our youth, our students' realities of their personal barriers in this education system? How do we help them do that? Like,
meet them where they are. That's it. Meet them where they are.
Bucko.
And one thing I had to learn is when you're an ambitious person, and I can imagine as a parent, we don't have our own children, but we're with kids, and a lot of them feel like my children.
We have tons of kids.
We have, all over. But it's like we have these expectations, or we have these things that we want them to do. I want you to be ambitious. I want you to be great, which we should have. But at the end of the day, it's like, well, what do you want for your life?
right.
What do you need right now? And understanding they might not be able to meet our expectations. That just might not be what's it for them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so we started talking about it, but it's like and she loved it after that. She dove all the way into it. So it's like, if we can just sit and have a conversation about what they really want, we can point them in the right directions without always putting off our expectations and what we think they should be doing. I really think that that's a big problem. And it's a lot of pressure for them.
Yeah.
It's a lot of pressure for them, especially when they aren't good at school. I want to say something, but I feel like it's going away from the question. Okay, but me and Keith have this conversation of why we feel like the school system doesn't work. And I'm going to let you explain how it was first created as a factory worker. And our kids are innovative now. They want more. They learn differently. So we need to change that.
Yes, the curriculum is not equative to what these kids are experiencing in their reality.
Right.
Like, we're still teaching a curriculum that's outdated, and that it's not going to suit them for their career. You got kids now, and we can even talking about gaming. Gaming is is a $1 billion industry.
It is.
And that these kids can make money in school now and make salaries that we make.
And you know what adults tell them? That's
not
not realistic.
That's not a real.
And I said, but it is.
I want to be a YouTuber. That's not a real job.
No, it is though.
Okay.
That's the
Keep
reality
believing
now, but we don't teach that.
But because we don't know. And we think it's stupid.
Yep.
Because I don't know, and I've never heard of that, and that's too new, so that can't be something you can be successful at.
They said the same thing with hip hop, and look at now, it speaks to the culture, bucko.
So maybe we need to stop being so ignorant as adults.
Amen.
And
I agree.
learn about their culture, learn about what they're into, and then it'll give you, I think, more insight.
I would say, to piggyback off of her, she taught me something that was profound. Yes, she did.
See, that's gold.
She taught me something.
Black
that was,
love right there. Come on, man.
She taught me something that was profound. I used to go into every kid or every project with this idea of what I thought the success was. And so I'm already going into it like, if we don't hit these markers and hit these goals, I failed.
Yeah.
And I will wear the weight of that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I failed this kid or I failed this person. And so I think you have to really be honest with yourself about what's a win. And for each individual child, what's a win? In the position that you stand with them as an educator, as a mentor, as a parent, as an uncle, as whatever it is that you stand in, what's a win for them? Some of these kids, a win is simply, I taught him that he needs to get a bank account at some point. That was all I taught him. Nothing else. That was a win. For other kids, I taught them, hey, you're not a complete failure. You know what I'm saying? You've done this, you've done this. You need to look at least 2 things that you did right today. Every single day, and you'll be all right. That's all I taught them. Not that they became something real big or something crazy, or they did not go to jail. They still went to jail. They still went to prison. They still had all these other things. But you need to be able to say to yourself, what is a win for these kids individually, and stay in pocket with that, with what it is for you to do, so that you don't get burnt out.
Yeah.
I think a lot of our educators have great hearts, but they're burnt down because they went into it with the hero syndrome that I'm going to save these kids.
Yeah.
And you didn't identify really what your win was for each individual student.
Good.
You know what I'm saying? All these kids aren't the same in your class.
Right.
Obviously, they don't get the same grades. So, you know what I'm saying? Michael's getting a D. However, I was able to teach Michael, you know what I'm saying, fractions. and he's in the 9th grade. He should have been learning fractions.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I'm an algebra teacher, and all I was able to get him to learn was fractions. That's a win.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's a legit win. And you wear that and say, okay, I won somewhere here with Michael. And that gives you what you need to continue to keep staying in this fight. We're losing teachers by the handful. They're dropping like flies because they don't feel the support. They don't believe that they're winning or making a difference.
Underpaid.
Sure. Severely underpaid.
Yes.
Severely underpaid. So that goes to that other lane. I was like, if we really want to fix the problem, pay the teachers. Pay the teachers. You know what I'm saying? But really just being able to keep themselves in the game.
Gotcha.
Because we usually fall apart. And so when we're talking about these kids with their personal barriers or whatnot, you just identify how I'm going to help you. Give me one thing that I'm going to go ahead and attack with this kid and help him through with that one personal barrier. That's a win.
And understand, I'm not here to fix you.
That part. Okay.
We're not here to fix you. I am here to plant seeds
And guide.
and guide you. And it is my hope that the next person, that's why we need the village. Because I'd be irritated with where's the village.
Come on, village.
That the next person in the village is now supposed to water that seed that I planted and plant some more. And then I send you off again. It is a journey. And so that way you won't get burnt out over trying to take on everything for everybody, because it's very emotional and it's very draining.
It is draining.
When you have a big heart like that. But that's how I go into it. That's what keeps me calm, is I'm here to plant seeds, and I might only have you for a season, so let me plant as much as I can in you while I have you in this season so I can send you off. And I might not see what you bloom into, and that's okay, because I did my best to plant what you needed in that moment.
And sometimes I think us as folks who walkers of Christ, educators, everything, all the labels you want to put out there, we need to understand there's our goals and then there's theirs. And there's God's goal for them that He planted you to do for you. And it's not up to you. Right. And that's something I think, because I've been mentoring like yourselves for years.
Right.
And I finally just understood that.
Yeah.
But I've always been good with whatever outcome comes, because I understood it wasn't my walk.
Right.
I understood my purpose. But I think a lot of people out here need to understand that. And like, it's not in your control.
Yeah.
What's in your control is what you give, and that's what, in my belief, what the God has blessed you to give.
Right.
So,
but I mean, it's for us to speak life into these kids.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that just has to be something you're always cognizant of, is that you're speaking life into these kids. You know what I'm saying? They hear it enough of where they're not hitting the markers, and where that's not to say you don't hold them accountable when there's more in there and pull that out of them. You want to pull out everything you can out of them. However, but you want to also be making sure that you're just as cognizant of where you're holding them accountable and telling them when they're not hitting the marks, that you're highlighting it and you're blowing it out of proportion when they do something right. If anybody wants to understand why kids don't care about grades, it's because the gym is full when there's basketball going on. The gym is not full when I got an A on my test. Nobody's there. The teacher don't announce that. But Tyrell's 32 points got announced. You know what I'm saying? Nobody's saying that I scored 100 points on the biology test, which ain't been done before. No one highlights these things. So we have to explode and put as much energy of speaking life when they do well into these kids. Make it as big of a deal as it has to be, as we do when they fall apart and when they're not doing stuff right.
That's good.
Amen. And this is actually concludes this episode, y'all. It's been very inspiring. I always learn something from y'all, and this was a great episode for me to just sit here and experience this time with you. And I'm pretty sure the guests, they loved it too. Is there any last minute things the Calhouns want to say to the people?
We need y'all in the village.
Please.
I need you to know that even if you're not an educator by trade, like, we all have something as an individual that we can mentor a young person in, whether that be in tying a tie, whether that be in teaching somebody to do their hair, whether that be in teaching you how to ride a bike. You know something that you can pass down to somebody. So please just offer some of your time during the week to give back to these kids. We need to all be pitching in.
Come on, preacher!
and holding them up.
Let's go!
Mine would be just your representation matters.
Oh yeah.
And everywhere that you stand,
They're watching you.
Your representation matters. in what you do. If you're in a relationship and you love your wife, they need to see you loving on your
Yeah.
wife. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? If you like anime, they need to see you loving on anime. Your representation matters. They need to see someone that looks like them, come from them, and they're not a monolith. They do all these different things. They're involved in all these different things, and all the full humanity that it is. Men. Cry, let it happen. You know what I'm saying? Show how you deal with your frustrations, all these different things. They need to see somebody that looks like them doing what they do, and that's what I think you're trying to pull out with this podcast. Definitely is pulling people that represent all these different areas and can do all these different things, can run a boardroom, but at the same time turn on Project Pat and be totally
Not
and they
Project Pat though.
but that's the point of the show. That people, I think you someone said it finally. It's a village, because when we think of you hear me say mentorship and education, but there's so many elements that make it flourish, and we don't think about that. None of this comes by itself. Right. I on a personal note, I would have not been able to heal from my previous marriage without God planting people in my life. There was people I asked a prayer that I didn't really know was going to come. And sometimes that's why you be wary what you ask for, because it's gonna come. And one thing I tell you people, my folks who are watching, is I prayed for whoever's meant to be in my life, present that. I left it that broadly, not knowing how ruthless it was gonna come. Folks started dropping off like flies.
Yeah.
Folks that I thought were never going anywhere.
Right.
But then the folks who were meant to be were there. And now I'm at a point 4 years later where we're on the show. And I believe that I don't really believe there's failure in things when you attempt. It's just lessons to be learned.
Yeah.
But I mean, big ups to you for doing that, man. They exactly what you just said. There are men that will close their heart off.
Yep.
At the fact that they did with the right thing. They didn't cheat. They did everything right. They got married and things didn't work out still. Yeah. So I might as well go out and be for the streets. You know what I'm saying?
Be for the streets.
You know what I mean?
But
I tried it. It ain't working.
But they need to see the comeback story.
They do.
You know what I'm saying? They need to see you loving all over again and not letting that. You know what I'm saying? But I appreciate you, Sean, for letting me live my dream. I've always wanted to be on a show. I told her I sit in the mirror sometimes to interview myself. So this is
I was like, what are you saying to yourself? What's happening in there?
I'm in the car interviewing myself. You know what I'm saying? So,
He was bred for this.
I've been waiting my whole life for this.
Oh my God.
But man, I appreciate the opportunity, and I speak life into what you're doing, man.
Thank you, brother.
I speak life into this, what you're doing, man.
Yeah.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah.
And this is gonna keep going. You know, as long as the Lord lets me breathe, we're gonna keep this going. So that's it for episode 6. Thank y'all for tuning in. We'll catch y'all for one more episode to close out the season, episode 7. And that's it. This is the UnconQuerable Because We Believe with your man Sean Torrey. We out, bucko!
Out of here.
Oh, she's about to fly, man.